This is the Travel and Tourism Show on Star FM.
Welcome to the Travel and Tourism Show. I'm Mazwi Shamu, the show that brings you information on places to travel, how to travel, as well as what to do and how to do it. Aside from giving you tips, we also highlight various issues in the travel and tourism industry. On our very first show tonight, we look at Zimbabwe, a world of wonders. Joining me on the show to help unravel tourism in Zimbabwe is the Minister of the Tourism and Hospitality Industry, Honorable Dr. Walter Mzembi. Dr. Mzembi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mazwi.
As we kickstart off the show, Dr. Mzembi, I have noticed that if you speak to people on the street and ask them who tourists are, often the response is there are people coming from outside the country, the foreigners. What is tourism and who is a tourist?
The UNWTO definition on who qualifies to be designated and or called a tourist is one who spends 24 hours away from his normal place of domicile and spends in the host destination, be it a local one, international or regional. So that's the conventional definition.
So that's the definition.
So you must spend 24 hours away, sleep overnight, spend and pay for accommodation and services for you to qualify to be a tourist.
That's right. So that means that it's not just the people who are flying in or the people who are crossing the border. You and I, we can be tourists. Isn't that right?
You and I are tourists most of the time.
That's right. Okay.
When we conduct our business outside Harare, for example, and we go to Bulawayo, Machingo, and we sleep in a hotel, we pay for services, accommodation, food, and activities. We become domestic tourists. And I think this is the challenge going forward, to include everybody in that broad definition. And the product going forward, we want to define it as an inclusive tourism product, tourism for all. Yes.
Okay, all right. So much is being talked about in the tourism industry. Why is tourism so important for a country? Why should we think about tourism at all?
Well, first and foremost, if I may invoke the Bible, if you go to Isaiah chapter 60, verse 11, it is a very popular chapter by a very popular prophet at the time. And he was speaking about the lost glory of Israel, which was being recovered in that chapter, Arise and Shine.
Yes.
And in that specific verse 11, he speaks about keep thy gates open, do not close them during the day nor during the night, so that you may enjoy the wealth of the Gentiles with their kings in possession. So wealth is brought in by visitors. If you are looking at trade and investment, if you're looking at that value chain on trade and investment, it shall begin with the visit, because no trade or investment opportunity shall be exposed unless if somebody has visited. Now today, with the advent of technology, we even have virtual visits to a destination which are achieved through innovation and technology.
Yes.
And people visit the destinations on their applicators, on phones, on their tables, and so forth. And then they do the actual physical visit to really experience the actual experience when they are in a destination.
Okay.
So it is a revolution of our contemporary times. Travel.
Yes.
In that, if you go back to where it started, in terms of official recordings, in 1950 we had just about 25 million tourists.
Wow.
And it was a 2 billion economy. Today, 2016, we closed the year at 1.2 billion arrivals and the 1.5 trillion direct exports economy.
Wow.
7 trillion to 8 trillion in GDP size, constituting 10% of global gross domestic product, employing 380 million people. 1 in every 11 people in the world they are employed by tourism
industry.
30% of global service exports, 7% of net exports in the world. This is tourism. And if I may just put it
Those are impressive figures.
In relative terms to other sectors in terms of export performance. You will find global tourism being ranked number 3 in terms of export revenue generation from fuels and chemicals, with foodstuffs and automobiles coming into 4th and 5th place respectively.
Wow.
So we are commanding the 3rd place in terms of export earning potential and capacity.
Wow.
In real terms. That is the potential of tourism. Now when you situate it in a national economy, the statistics do not vary that much. You also find it in Zimbabwe, contributing 10% to gross domestic product.
Yeah.
We are a $1 billion economy now. We employ 1 in every 12 people that are employed in the country. After the civil service, we are arguably the most formalized and organized employment generator at 300,000, directly and indirectly.
Wow.
That is the importance of this sector.
Yeah. Those are very impressive figures.
Sure.
Very, very impressive. And how is our domestic tourism at the moment? You touched on it a little bit. Do we have a lot of locals traveling in and around our country?
Well, as you can see, during your calendar events, your holidays, like Easter, Heroes, and Christmas, New Year, most of our domestic resorts are fully subscribed.
Always?
Always. If you try the Victoria Falls now, obviously you would have to place domestic tourism against international, and there's very little space for domestic at the moment, because our people only access these attractions during our own
public holidays. That's right.
Yeah, and they fully take them up.
Yes.
I think there's a new holiday culture evolving in Zimbabwe. It is a product of exposure. The best education is exposure.
Yes.
And you find now this very interesting uptick of local products by the domestic market. And I'm happy that we are connecting to that extent. But having said that, let me underline the fact that the vibrance of the domestic tourism market is a function of the ability of the country to raise a middle class. So we must work conscientiously as government to raise that middle class that can afford the products, because the key question is affordability.
Right.
Now, in our context with the US dollar driven economy, where the US dollar is the choice currency and transactional currency, you will find that most of the products are inaccessible in terms of affordability to ordinary citizens because of our ability to internally devalue. As a result of our lack of understanding of the value of the US dollar and cost derivations which are done in US dollar, which obviously have made the products inaccessible to our people.
Right. You keep talking about the product. What does the brand Zimbabwe offer?
Well, a brand, nation branding, is not tourism branding. When you refer to tourism branding, it's equal to destination branding. Okay. And there are many destinations within a destination.
Right, that's true.
And we have our own designated magnets or attractions that we have said going forward into the future, these are the nuggets. And they will raise awareness around other nuggets in the country once we pitch these ones, because they are internationally recognizable.
Right. What are some of these?
So, to the extent that David Livingstone in the mid-1800s was the first person to popularize the Victoria Falls, to popularize, not discovering it, to popularize it to international source markets, to his own queen, to Scotland, to the then England. He was the first person to popularize that destination. So the brand value is very intrinsic. It goes back 2-3 centuries. We couldn't compare it today with the discovered attraction maybe in Mausekwa This one has been developed over time.
Yes.
And to the extent that the falls were then renamed and rebranded at the time to Victoria Falls, named after their queen. It has been planted in the mindset of international consumers for a long, long time. So the brand value and equity of the Victoria Falls is arguably much more than even the nation brand itself.
Wow.
But when you talk nation branding, it's a totality of 6 pillars. That includes governance as a pillar. So now we are approaching elections, for example.
Right.
We have to make a choice how we want to be understood out there.
Yes.
By the kind of noise that we make around those elections. And when the elections have been concluded, as 2013 was concluded and endorsed by the United Nations, endorsed by the African Union, it is those endorsements that you must run along with in the intervening period, so that you create legitimacy out of a government. So we achieved that to a very large extent, but there is too much noise between contesting entities and parties in the country that drowns the perception around peace and stability that obtains in the country. So that contestation, which is very, very loud, it's a hullabaloo of sorts in the media. If you take all our newspaper headlines on any day, and you sum them up in terms of the message that they are conveying to consumers of brands, you would almost pass Zimbabwe for a country in conflict. And yet we're a very peaceful destination. So around that pillar of governance, we have to agree someday, going forward into the future, to say, how do we want to be understood out there? If you check Zimbabweans, we are arguably one of the most socially active on online media, and socially active on the wrong thrusts, on pulling each other down, insulting each other. We have very low tolerance levels for dissenting views as a country towards each other's citizens. If you go into London, for example, you want to identify Zimbabweans, you know them by their inability to coalesce as a community. Nigerians, they stick together like bubblegum. Ghanaians, they stick together. But Zimbabweans, you know them by how much they cast aspersions against each other. And we have allowed this culture to actually describe and characterize who we are as a people.
Sad.
So we need to fix that.
That's sad.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm talking now about the people pillar. So we celebrate our literacy rates, but they amount to nothing because we are not civil. We must go to the stage where there is a high degree of civility between us. Less contestations, more unity of purpose around how we want, for example, to make our resources sweat for us going forward into the future. We have absolutely no excuse for being poor and not having even our own currency as a country. But what is lacking is cohesion and unity of purpose. A people, a nation divided amongst itself cannot stand. So that elusive element called unity of purpose, we must look for it daily until we find it. I don't know, maybe the churches are trying, but they are not playing a significant role in bringing the people together. Instead, what you also see in the church itself is this very characterization of Zimbabweans. Splinters, fragmentation, pulling each other down. That we must fix. It's a bad spirit, and we must find a way of exorcising it from this people brand. Education alone, literacy accomplishments that are not accompanied by being learned, by being civil, cannot give you the totality of the people brand that you want to see out of our people in that pillar. So exports is also another area. How do we push out our products from Zimbabwe? Do we push them out as raw materials or as value-added products, beneficiated products? Because once you value-add them and you beneficiate them, you are paid trademarks made in Zimbabwe, and the brand starts selling in that line of exports. Major. You go to the next pillar, arts, culture, and heritage. Are we keeping our heritage, our culture, authentic enough to the extent where we can market it as a product? So if you look at the cuisine of the Nigerians, jollof, in London you'll find restaurants selling
all of those
of that stuff.
Yes.
And you will find Nigerians walking very proudly in their togas. Okay,
we've struggled to actually
we have struggled to
actually
identify who we are, even dress-wise.
Yes.
The amount of money that we spend, for example, on artificial wigs, and yet the Europeans admire how natural our hair looks when it's braided. You see them trying to braid their hair. We are running away from that ourselves. So this identity question, we must fix it.
How?
So I hope that one day we will have a CODESA of sorts in this country, and I hope you understand what I mean when I talk about CODESA. It's just a national conversation on the Zimbabwe that we want. We did it with the constitution. We didn't go beyond that to a value proposition discussion or conversation on how we should be relating to each other. Because for me, having spent a year traversing the world, meeting other cultures, nationalities, I can see that there's so much negative energy in the country to a point where it is actually setting us back one generation.
Considering all those figures that you were talking about just now, about how much the tourism industry can bring in, and if we're sending out these negative vibes, like you're saying, we are shooting ourselves in the foot. So what can we do about it?
So the destination brand, let's go back to the destination brand, because we're talking tourism here.
Yes.
Is what Kasek and team worked around the Zimbabwe World of Wonders.
A World of Wonders, that's right.
That, notwithstanding the good work that they did around that, was weighed down by the performance of the other pillars that I'm sharing with you. So when a tourist visits, he will engage the physical product.
Yes.
And the list of all the people, the social interaction that tourism then brings to the table. That is the value, answering your question.
Yes.
The people-to-people diplomacy, the memorable experience that people should be taking back once they've engaged the Zimbabwean. And it starts at your ports of entry.
Right.
Now, you land an aircraft, South African Airways at Victoria Falls Airport or Aranda National Airport.
Yes.
The tourism experience starts right there. And if it is on our own airline, it actually starts on board Air Zimbabwe.
That's right.
That's where it starts.
That's
from
right.
The moment that you pick the traffic from OR Tambo or any other
destination in the country,
if it's Air Zimbabwe, somebody, the traveler, must feel that now I'm flying brand Zimbabwe.
Yes.
And when they land, the hospitality, the smiles extended to them. We are all insisting now on security compliance checks at airports. It should be done decently, in a manner that reminds your visiting public that they are welcome. From there on, our own clarion call on judicious policing and management of traffic, engagement of tourists, what you commonly refer to as the roadblocks debate, is informed by this culture where we want to make our guests welcome in the country. So I'm hoping that one day this CODESA national conversation in Zimbabwe will be a feature that we can have in every platform where people are meeting, just to discuss how we should be relating to each other, based on one principle of philosophy of empathy. Do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. Once we fix that, I think we'll cross the line.
Okay. Whilst you were talking about how we need to relate with one another, how tourists engage or how the experience that they get as soon as they board a plane, say Air Zimbabwe, I started thinking about some of the services that are on the ground.
Sure.
Things like public toilets within the city or within destinations. Some of them are not pleasant at all. Do other sectors of the government or public service sectors, do they understand the importance of tourism?
Well, let me help you on that one. In trying to understand how we can attract Chinese tourism into Zimbabwe, because China will unleash 600 million tourists outbound from its country out into the world by the year 2020. And we must start positioning ourselves what sort of percentage market share we want out of that figure.
Yes.
To grow our own international tourism. When you engage in China study groups in relation to African tourism, the first thing that one of the first issues that they raise is the issue of ablution. When we enter your country through Bayard Bridge, do we have ablution facilities that can compare to international standards along the highways, that can compare to international standards in the hotels, in the accommodation offerings? They raised that issue in the China-Africa study group that I participated in. It's ranking in the top 5 of their concerns. So that is an area, obviously, that should be enabled by public construction.
Right.
And you may not recall it, we used to have just one public toilet. I don't know whether we've added one in the central business district. In its corner, First Street.
Oh, yes, and Jason Moyo.
And Jason Moyo.
Right. Yeah.
In my understanding, as far as I can remember, that is arguably the only paid for public toilet in central business district. That can't be good enough.
It's not. It can't be.
It can't be good enough. So we need to work around that. Now the commerce that spends its day doing business in central business district, where did they go to relieve themselves? In alleys. So when we walk our alleys, they smell urine, okay, and waste. These are the things that either attract or offend a visitor.
And most likely offend.
And they are basics, and we should fix them.
Yes. We have been speaking to the Minister of Tourism and Hospitality, Dr. Walter Mzembi, and he has shed light on the importance of tourism for a country. Dr. Mzembi mentioned some fascinating facts regarding tourism in Zimbabwe and stated that 1 of every 12 jobs in Zimbabwe is tourism related. However, much still needs to be done with regards to tourism in the country, particularly when we talk about our infrastructure and facilities on the ground. Basic facilities like public toilets that tourists need to use. We'll continue this conversation next week with Dr. Mzembi, and he will unravel more about tourism. So be sure to join us again next week for the second part of our conversation. However, listeners, you and I can continue talking about the issues we touched on today. Catch me on Twitter at Mazwi Shamu, or like my Facebook page, Mazwi Shamu. But before we close, every week we'll bring you a feature on a destination. And as we celebrate the month of July, #Zimtulikazi, this week we bring you the Eastern Highlands. Eastern Zimbabwe is a land of mountains. This beautiful part of Zimbabwe includes 3 distinct mountain ranges: the Nyangani, the Vumba, and the Chimanimani Mountains. The Eastern Highlands stretch along the border between Zimbabwe and Mozambique. The Nyanga Mountains feature Zimbabwe's highest peak, which is Mount Nyangani, and Mutarazi Falls, which is the highest in Zimbabwe, second highest in Africa, and 17th in the world. It plunges 762 meters down the Honde Escarpment. The beautiful Nyangombe Falls are also found in this region. These are a popular family attraction. You'll also find World's View, a place where many tourists like to go and visit. After passing through Christmas Pass, we find Mutare nestled into the granite rocks. This is the capital of Manicaland province and was founded as a fort in 1897 when gold was discovered in the Penalonga Valley. Overlooking it are the misty Vumba Mountains. The mountains offer spectacular views over the highlands and tropical lowlands of Mozambique. South of Mutare is where we find the Chimanimani Mountains, which is home to the lovely Bridal Veil Falls, which spill 50 meters into a natural swimming pool. In the vicinity are Mount Cylinder and Chirinda Forest, with its 600-year-old mahogany trees, which stand 66 meters with a girth of 15 meters. There are plenty of accommodation facilities available, ranging from 4-star resorts to self-catering lodges, camping sites, and budget hotels. Whether walking, climbing, bird watching, trout fishing, horse riding, golfing, or just relaxing in the beautiful surroundings and clear mountain air, a visit to this beautiful part of Zimbabwe's Eastern Highlands is truly an enjoyable and unforgettable experience. As you travel to these beautiful, picturesque destinations, leave nothing but footprints, take nothing but photos. Happy traveling.
Thank you for tuning in to the Travel and Tourism Show on Star FM.